All right, Tom. No one wants to hear about Bruce Brown talk. They want to hear another B word. Ben Simmons. Oh,
Yes. Yes. Was it
Ben
a
Simmons.
phone? Was it not a phone? Sources are telling me it was not a phone that was in his
Mm-hmm.
pocket. Yes, Monday. This is now we're in Wednesday morning recording this. Doc
Yeah.
Rivers kicked him out of practice straight up. Get
Mm-hmm.
out of here. You don't want to participate. You don't want to be a real teammate and participate in these drills. You're out. This is the fascinating thing to me about this situation. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Doc Rivers isn't Daryl Morey's guy. Doc Rivers is supposed to be the coach, the championship coach, the Ubuntu to get star players to like each other, to play with each other, at least come together for the greater good of the team. He's supposed to be the star, the star maker, right? This situation has not worked out for Doc Rivers. He hasn't. He was brought in very much to make sure that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid were maximized, and none of this has gone the way that the Sixers have hoped.
This is okay. So, couple things. I've worked in the media now. This is starting my 8th season. No, my 9th season. Before that, I worked in the league for just about 10 years. I worked in the league, right? Different teams. Players get kicked out of practice every fucking day, man. That's not a new thing.
Okay. So you're saying this is a non-story. I mean, why don't you tell stories of people being kicked out of it?
I'm not saying it's a non-story. I'm saying, why would they leak that? Why would that be leaked? Why he was kicked out of practice? That A, he was kicked out of practice. B, why he was kicked out of practice, and C, for the team to suspend him for being kicked out of practice. That all seems
the suspension
overkill.
came out first. I mean, I feel like the leak about him being suspended for conduct detrimental to the team leaked.
Regardless of the order, I mean, he's suspended because of what happened, even though the suspension came out first before everything else. But still, the idea is like, why is all of that out there? In the same way that if he's got a hyperized or whatever type of medical thing in his pocket and people are erroneously calling it a phone, teams are usually really quick to correct shit.
Yeah.
Really quick. They seem to let that one just sit out there.
Yeah.
Oops. Yep. Did people get that one wrong? Sorry. So there's a lot of, I don't know, man. I think Philly is playing a dangerous game because I don't think anyone wins when you do this. You won. You won. He came back. You won. So the idea here is, and I'm not trying to let him off the hook either, but I'm just saying, like, doing all of this tit for tat shit isn't going to help anybody. It certainly is not going to help the trade value, which should be number one paramount priority for Daryl Morey and for the Sixers. But they're just letting it ride. So, like, I'm like, okay, and then Joel Embiid comes out and says, I'm not going to babysit him, and I don't care about that guy or whatever. And this is obviously literally out 48 hours after they told us, hey, no, we love him, we're happy he's back and all that. Like, it can't be like that, man. You can't abandon ship on the strategy that quickly. You knew he was disgruntled. You knew he didn't want to be here. He just came here because he somehow just figured out he wasn't gonna get his money back.
Yeah. How did that get miscalculated?
I don't know, man.
Like Rich Paul and their team at the agency, or whether it was Ben Simmons at Clutch, like whoever was guiding him financially on this. Like, I think it came out today, a report came out today that he hasn't gotten paid, period. Even though he's shown up for practice, the fact that he hasn't gotten paid.
Because the money's in escrow. The money's in escrow, and they just withheld the first 4 game checks that he missed. That's roughly about $1.5 million. So now, technically, he could start getting paid, except for the fact that he missed. He's going to miss this next suspended game. So that's another 300 some odd grand on top of that. Plus, there are a whole bunch of fines for missing practice and training camp
Yeah.
and all that other stuff. So they're going to get their pound of flesh.
I mean, when you look at this situation, it's in everybody's best interest to have Ben Simmons happy, playing basketball, and being invested in the team. Because the more that he plays, the higher chances that Daryl Morey and their front office and Elton Brand are going to sign up, get a better deal, and finally come to terms on a trade, right? Because if Ben Simmons continues to act like a child at these things, and I remember Bomani Jones tweeting about this as it was happening, is like, what is he, 5 years old? Like, reading the tea leaves or reading the reports about, he did not want to play defense. Doc Rivers, hey, Ben, get out here. Let's run these drills, a shell drill. Let's get out here. Was that? No, you don't want to play,
but like I guess.
Get out. All right, go. Fine. Get out. All right, fine. And then he drops his ball and leaves. It's just this isn't helping you, Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Like this attitude is not helping you get out of this situation.
Well, the funny thing is, I should clarify something because I've been someone from the very beginning. I said, look, if you want to get traded, you don't sit out. You show up and you make everybody uncomfortable. But you can't do it by outright breaking rules. Like I didn't know that I had to clarify that. Like you have to do like what are you asking? I'm doing what you asked me to do, right? So like James Harden last year was like, what do you want? I showed up. What do you want? I played in the game, but they can't fine you for playing poorly. They can't suspend you for playing poorly. They can suspend you for insubordination though.
Yep.
So the idea isn't sit out the drill, say I don't feel like it. The idea is you go, you do the drill, you do it so horseshit. They just say, all right, just sit down over there. They can't suspend you for being horseshit. They can suspend you for not doing it, though.
Right. Like if you're the Indiana Pacers and you're like, before this happened, you had Malcolm Brogdon and maybe a protected first-round pick in there. If I'm the Indiana Pacers, I'm like, yeah, after this, I'm removing that first-round pick. I'm done. I don't have to. I'm taking things off the table rather than adding them. That's what's happening here. And I don't think Elton Brand and Daryl Morey are going to be like, yeah, now we're going to do it. Like if we've gotten to this point, I don't see Elton Brand and Daryl Morey sitting here and being like, yeah, we're going to trade him for 30 cents on the dollar. I just don't think so.
I mean, I think well, here's my thing. Here's my theory. I floated it on the show on Tuesday, which is as long as Damian Lillard is out there and Portland is not a resolved situation, I'm not trading Ben Simmons anywhere. Because I know if he comes on the market, no one's touching that package. No one can come up with a better deal than Ben Simmons, a Ben Simmons centric deal because of his age, because of the way he plays and what Portland needs and all that. So if you are Daryl Morey, there's a part of this where you're like, it's all worth it. We're going to wait. Now, I saw Casey Holdall, who is a Blazers employee. He does kind of
he's their reporter.
Their reporter.
Media. Yeah.
So massive grain of salt when I say this, but he tweeted out today something along the lines of a Dame quote about, I'm not going anywhere, which is, we've never seen that before in the NBA, right? Like where anyone says that. Let me find. I've got the exact.
Mind you, right Russell Westbrook, by the way, is on his 4th team in like 3 years. Okay, just keep that in mind for those who remember OKC lifer Russell Westbrook. He's been on 4 different teams. Yeah.
Here's the quote. I'm not leaving Portland. Adversity is going to hit. There's going to be tough times. So if it starts off rocky or if it starts out as a struggle, I won't be happy about it. Nobody would. But I'm not going to jump ship and bail out when that happens. I mean, he could say that if they start the season 2-20.
Yeah.
I mean, good luck. Like you and that's what Daryl Morey has to at least hold out for just to see how Portland starts. Because the last thing you want, Tom, is to trade Ben Simmons and then like a month later, Damian Lillard says, get me out of here. And you're like,
yep.
I did it for Buddy Hield and I could have gotten Damian Lillard.
And he did give a shout out to Chauncey Billups and saying, I want to see this through with Chauncey and I want to play hard and see this through. Like, what if they do get off to a 3-17 start and they fired Chauncey Billups? Like, things can go pretty sideways in the NBA. And the other thing, you made a good point earlier I want to get back to. Jimmy Butler in Minnesota. He blew up that practice that you were reporting. You were a central figure in that story of Jimmy Butler a couple years ago in Minnesota in an expiring year, went in against the first teamers, Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, etc., and playing with the third team just busted their asses in practice. But people think about that moment and don't remember the fact that Jimmy Butler played in the regular season with them after that.
Yeah. Well, he started the very first game of the regular season. I was at their home opener. They introduced him. The entire crowd booed louder than I've ever seen a home crowd boo a home player. Every time he touched the ball, Tom, they booed every single time he touched it. And what he did was he went out there and he kicked ass up and down the floor. And literally, I swear to God, by the end of the game, they gave him a standing ovation. Like, if you want to know, like, what's the badass way to burn your way out of town, it's what Jimmy Butler did in Minnesota. He went there, he kicked everybody's ass, he mocked them, he mocked the front office, he mocked the coaching staff. He may or may not have been wearing a Rolex, went out to the first game, had the crowd boo him, made them give him a standing ovation by the end of that game as he won, and he shot like 9 for 9 from the field. It was a ridiculous performance. I mean, it was like one of the greatest games that I've seen in person. And that's how you do it. You remind everybody the reason why you want to get out of here is because I'm too good for all of this.
Okay, so is it going to be the Jimmy Butler route where he's going to make amends, he's going to come in and he's going to play for a couple weeks and bust his ass and play great, and they're going to give him standing ovations in Philly? I'm going to fade that very hard. Or is it going to be like a Kawhi situation where he's going to like show up here and there and play randomly throughout the season just to check in, right? Just to clock in and clock out.
I mean, this is not a good start to the situation. Let's start there, right? If the plan was, hey, he's going to come back and play. He already got suspended. We haven't even played a game yet. He's already suspended. That's pretty amazing. I think he's a little sloppy in the way he's approached this whole situation, and I think the Sixers are a little too heavy-handed in the way they've approached the situation. And like I said, the way both sides are behaving right now, this doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the Sixers get good return on value. It doesn't help Ben Simmons get traded.
When Ben Simmons does get traded, I don't know what we're going to see, because the underrated aspect of this is that he has been so vindictive with the organization now. I could totally see the 76ers just shipping him to Sacramento and just being done with it, right? Like Ben Simmons, like you want to complain about playing here in Philly? Like, we're going to send you to a market that is going to be a very forgettable franchise for you. Like, I can't imagine Ben Simmons is going to be like, yes, I get a fresh start in Sacramento or Indiana. Like, I can't imagine he's going to be super excited about that. And so, are we going to start this all over again?
At the same time, I would say that David Aldridge reported that Sacramento is now on the approved list for Ben Simmons. So maybe he's not. Maybe.
I mean, I hope they are, right? Like, I hope they are. I don't think beggars can be choosers. If you're begging to be traded and you're not willing to participate in team activities, I don't think you can have a list. I don't think you can. Like, Ben Simmons shouldn't have a list that he's trying to get. Damn, Tom, shitting on the Pacers from Keith O'Brien. It's not, I mean, look, it's not. I'm just looking at this from a situation of look at where AD went to LA. Look at where James Harden went to Brooklyn. And I don't think going to Cleveland or Indiana or these flyover states is really what Ben Simmons wants. I don't imagine he wants that. Maybe he wants to be in a quiet city that isn't going to be all over national TV. But to me, it's just an interesting thing that the Sixers don't have to capitulate to his trade demand wherever he wants to go. They can send him wherever they want.
I mean, they can and they can't, right? Because the whole idea is if I don't want to go, for instance, to Minnesota, I can do the Steve Francis and say, you send me to Minnesota, I ain't going to play. I don't want to be here. And then Minnesota says, wait a second, why am I giving up a bunch of stuff for someone I'm going to have to convince to want to be here? So that in turn depresses his market value. So, I mean, there's no one, you can't act unilaterally because there's always going to be an element of the leverage being lost in the process by a guy who doesn't want to go somewhere. Now, again, the other side of it is he might get so miserable in Philly that he would welcome a trade anywhere. And that's a different story. But I think ultimately he needs what he needs to do is he needs to play, honestly.
He needs to play
at this point, right? Like, because he didn't follow the Amin guidelines from the beginning. Now he put in a position, bro, you kind of got to play now. You got to play well.